Hello, wherever you are. Welcome to the Neoteran Herald Weekly. This is your weekly astrology guide coming to you as we are on the verge of breaking from week number 40 to week number 45. From week number 40 to week number 41 of year 0005 in the era Regnum dispensation. And we're coming to you live so that as we guide into the week, we can speak proactively and we can speak as programmers. We can program the reality and the outcomes of what happens over this week. We can be on top. We can be the ones that dictate affairs that are happening in lives instead of being just mere spectators in the theater of life and in business and in whatever sort of expression you are taking yourself in. Now, I don't want to take too much time because it's a very, very special program and I want us to spend as much time in discussing the particulars of what is happening, especially on this very first day of the 41st week. As you may know from our previous interactions, my name is Astrology, and episode 6 means we still have 5 more episodes. They are available on our YouTube channel at Neoteran Astro. Please, if this is your first time you're tuning in, please make reference to these others. Just go listen, try to understand, ask questions till you can reply with a comment. And most importantly, join, if you have not done so up to date, the Neoteran Astrology global community on WhatsApp. That's where our main interactions are. That is where our most immediate and most actionable information is given. And get a desire to know a lot more, because this, what we are offering through this Herald Weekly, is merely an opportunity for you to dip your toes into the waters of the vast cosmic ocean, whereof you have infinite possibilities in what you can express and what you can create as a divine being. I don't want to take too much time. So the first thing we always look at as a means of introduction is this graphic, and it will be available on our WhatsApp later. It will also be available on Facebook. This is the alignments of the planets. These are the planetary junctions and their motions over the period, or rather representative moment over the course of the next week. For much of the planetary data, and we talk about planetary data, anything that appears here, I would like to have a pointer, and I'm not getting that proper pointer. So what you're going to do is look for the one that uses PowerPoint and demonstrate this. So I'm talking about this data that is here. This data does not change much over the course of 1 week. The celestial alignments, all, if you want to be more nuanced, you can speak about planetary alignments. Doesn't change much. The ones that changes depending on location and time is the terrestrial alignments, and therefore, to ensure we take a representative moment, we take the sunrise at the very exact middle of the week, and that is on Wednesday, and this is representative of that. But the data can be generalized, and it will give an understanding of the entire week. We don't just sit there. We give you a graphic understanding of the alignments of the planets, compare it to the previous week, and we look at what is going to happen other week. And that is what we're going to transition into right now. Please, if you don't have any questions, if you don't have any remarks to make, don't hesitate to contact us either by the live chat that will happen as this episode is happening, as this episode is going out live, or via our communications in the chat that is the comments that are available below the video, or please, of course, interact with us on the Neoteran Astrology global community, as I said, on WhatsApp, but also on Facebook. We are available on Telegram and other platforms. It's important for us to do that. So Without further ado, let me go straight away into the alignments for the week, and we'll look at how the major planets, the 7 major planets in the Neoteran astrology system, are available now. And I don't know, there's something a little bit cantankerous about my pointer. It just won't agree to do what I wanted to do. Let's move. This is week number 41, and these are the planets as they are over last week. I'll just do a little glimpse at where they were on week 40 so that you can understand why we talk about data, or rather the representation of the heavens being a little bit constant in some sense and sometimes changeable. So what you're going to see is that if I check the major planets as they were last week, you see there's some significant differences. A lot of them do change. So the major planets, we do have 16 planets in the Neoteran system, and the 7 most clearly, or the most the clearest to observe, the easiest to depict and make out with your eyes, they are the 7 major planets. The most in your face is the sun, changes its position by the hour and by the day if you know what you want to look for. The moon also as well, but there are other 5 minor bodies. You may know them by their names: Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. These are the most common names for them, but of course it depends on the culture you are talking about, who your pantheon of gods are. If you're Greek, you may not agree entirely here, because you may call the sun Helios, you may talk of the moon Selena, you may talk of Mars as Mars in the pantheon of what I forget quite the name, but that's not the essence of what we are talking of now. So those are the planets as they were, the major planets as they were last week, and as they are this week. The major difference that is happening is that you'll see, if you begin from the extreme right here, is that you see this planet Mars, and Mars is moving in a way that, so rather the Mars is right here, not what I was pointing at. It's moving in a way to show that it is very much on the verge of moving into celestial house number 12. We'll cover that as part of the highlights. And you see that right now the planet Mercury, which was constantly close to the sun, now is moved over 1 Neoteran celestial house width away from the sun. But you can see here there's another planet that is making a transit, that is Jupiter, and we see the sun held within the confines of house number 10. And we have Venus that has already made the transit that we had not spoken of last week. It's transited. No longer, we don't speak about our planet Venus as being inside the house Habizelda. Remember the time it was involved in the 5 planet conjunction in that house when we began this series. That is where Venus was. And clearly, the other major indicator has just made a transition from house number 6 to Habizelda. That is the priestly house, and that is the priestly indicator planet Saturn. The moon, this is not very representative for the entire week, because over the course of a week, the moon moves across at least about 2 houses of the celestial heavens in the Neoteran outstanding, and that is where we meet it on the sunrise of Wednesday, making its transit across house number 3, hosted by the host that is towards the back end of house number 3, and that is Ophiuchus. You can see all these details if I go back just a little bit of return to the other details, because as I tell you, these graphics represent some understanding that is tied to the entirety of this planetary system. And you see the moon here. We talk about the moon, and let me point out to the moon. The moon is here, and we're talking about it being in the middle of house number 3. and the host is Ophiuchus, and its planetary motion is negative descent. Yeah, areas are no longer pointing at where the moon is, but here we are. A little bit of the point that I'm using today is a little bit different. So that is what you see. Yeah, of course, you always classify these other planets in their running order, starting with the sun, going to the one that has least either programmability or significance of itself as a planet, that is a ascending node of the moon. So those are the planets as you can see, and we're going to look at the highlights, and we're going to discuss tomorrow some little detail about what is entailed in each of the major shifts that are going to happen. We're going to start, first of all, let me just come here and illustrate for you. This is last week for the major planets. We are talking about a lot of convergence of the planets here in house number 8, or rather house number 9, heading towards house 9. This, as you see, is no longer the case because the only planet that is basically in house number 9 is the sun, and this is because it is going to be moving over to this position. The transit of the sun through this junction. Remember, we talked about transits in the first episode, and we said there are many kinds of transits. There are diurnal transits, there are planetary transits, but we said amongst both planetary transits and diurnal transits, is that they are what we call creative gateway transits. And the first one is a descendant one that happens at the beginning of the planetary cycle here, because this is a depiction mainly of the planetary cycle, not the diurnal cycle. What you're looking at here is a planetary cycle, but this is directly translatable to the diurnal cycle, like the transition that the sun does when it goes to this planetary gateway, creative gateway, is equivalent to the one that it does on a daily basis during its sunset time. Because it descends across the celestial heavens, goes to the lowest point in its descent, and that is what we call the descendant solstice in our calendar month, or is the 4th month, that one. And here it goes to another point, the equinox point, and this happens in early, and I hope that you can all see my pointer. Sometimes I don't know whether I'm looking at the wrong, I'm pointing at the wrong thing. So that is the point at which, and I know I am belaboring this point because I've spoken about it before, the first creative gateway transit, the negative descent point, and we begin to the descendant standstill, and then go to the equatorial ascendant, and that is at the midpoint of a sun cycle. And this is where we are heading. I wanted to explain this because in a couple of weeks, something significant is happening. Then sun, this is actually less than a week, because now we are heading to that point, beginning this Tuesday. And I'm remembering that that is not part of the highlights, but it ought to be part of the highlights, that we are talking about the beginning of the ascendant solstice of the sun, beginning next week, because the sun will be close enough to this standstill point that you consider it to be at a standstill. And then we have Mercury here. Of course, I explained that. Now, let's look a little bit at the minor planets, because there's something to speak about them as well. And what I want us to do is look, first of all, at this week, and we look at the minor planets, where they are. Minor planets don't change a lot. I have given you a clue or a hint before, and I said you are likely, as you're doing this every week, you're not likely to see much change, except with planets such as Vesta, minor planet Vesta. Minor planet Vesta is here on the graphic. Minor planet Vesta is there. Then we have the anti-solar point, and you have planet Sirius. So keep a watch on these as you move from week 40, there we are, to week 41, and you can see like Sirius hasn't changed a lot, but you can see if you go to the anti-solar point, that is where it is. It has changed a little bit considerably. Vesta is still in its standstill. Actually, it's one of only two planets that are, no, it's in retrograde. It and planet Pluto are the ones that are in retrograde at this point in time. We want to look at our calendar. Unless you do have any remarkable thing. But before we look at our calendar, by the way, let's look at something very significant that is happening. And this is the week we are in. And if I keep my pointer somewhere there so that I take a glimpse, is that you see in this area there is a change. Week 40, week 41. Week 40, week 41. Is that you see this planet as usually the slowest of them. Doesn't do a lot of a generation, even 2 generations, but if you observe it of hundreds of years, you'll discern some changes. It's almost as term. Is that at this point it will transit across the celestial heavens. The most important indicator of the celestial heavens, the divider of the celestial heavens, the equator, and it will move that. That may count as minor something, but in the realm of what celestial objects imply. And I'm realizing that I have a graphic that doesn't show the names of the planets, but it's okay. We'll be correcting this one later. So that is the most significant thing that we are waiting for. I don't want to keep coming back to this graphic, but this is the one thing that we've been waiting for. When we launched the year, when we launched our calendar, we spoke about the year number 5 as being significant. And there are some significant things that have happened already, but this is the most essential, the most complete, the most irrevocably changeable or rather programmable thing that is happening. And at the point at which it's going to happen are the things we institute. It's nothing short of what is going to govern the consciousness of humanity, not for a decade, not for a generation to come, but for several generations, for hundreds of years, and if you want, even for thousands of years. This is not the beginning of its cycle, it's the middle of its cycle, but there was something that happened in the beginning of its cycle. We understand it, we know how to retake it and program it. This is very important because for the last 342 years, planet Aries has been caught up in the darkness of the celestial heavens, and how it's rising, pushing about the celestial heaven equator, becoming a planet of light to guide our way for over 260 years in that realm. So that signifier is essential, important. We cannot overemphasize its implications and greatness for who we are and for who humanity is going to be. Now, let me explain something. Why is the celestial equator of such great importance? I want to go into that for some later while. If you look at the graphic that we were showing you just a couple of minutes ago, I want to revisit it because it will help me illustrate the point of the importance of planet Aries. Is that you see that we classify, again, as I said, and even said at the beginning of this, is that we have data in 2 broad columns, that is celestial alignments, and then we have terrestrial alignments here. And I hope that I'm pointing at the correct graphic. These are the celestial alignments, and across here we have the terrestrial alignments, but in between you have the connector between the two. This one looks like a disjointed column that appears in black type, and that is the equatorial declination. It is a point that brings everything between the heavens and the terrestrial, the transient and the eternal, into one common experience. It is indeed the point at which is rather the point in which we are able to harness and equalize and bring to reality all the things that we speak about. So that is why planet Aries crossing across the equator, if you check, and I don't know whether I can zoom on this enough, so that you are able to look at it. Don't worry about where the pointer is going to go for a while. And clearly, it doesn't seem like this device will allow me to zoom in. But if you look at where, if you're able to see it with any appreciable form of we're talking about planet Aries here, and what you see, it's at 0 on the middle of the week. It will be 00, that is 0 hours, or rather 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 15 seconds. That is on Wednesday. But if you check here, it was negative 0, 0. That is last Wednesday. So by the fact that I will no longer designate the equatorial declination of planet Aries by denoting it with a negative, but rather to be a positive, not for just 1 week or 2 weeks or a year or 2 years or 10 years or a generation, but over hundreds of years. That makes a distinction between the moment we are living in and the moment we are entering tomorrow. By the time we experience this sunset and experience the next one, there have been a wholesale, universal, multiversal shift in identities and the things that we can do. I am pausing because I hope to infect you with an understanding about the gravity of this moment. I'll speak about it shortly. So we have looked at the alignments of the major planets. We have looked at the alignments of the minor planets. We looked at the importance of the celestial and terrestrial equator, which are basically the very same thing. And now what you're going to look at is a calendar. I looked at it last week when we were introducing the month, so I'll not spend more time than I need to. We are still coming closer and closer to the point at which we must welcome this new week and this new dispensation that is coming upon us. So we are on the verge of entering date 12 of our calendar month, or the 5th calendar month. I'm trying to bring back the pointer, and here it comes. Generally doesn't want me to use it. So here is the day we are welcoming. This is a week number 41, beginning from date 12 and ending on date 18. So that is significant. We're also going to talk about date 15, which is the lunisolar opposition. We are talking about this most significant week beginning on Tuesday, the 21st. This Tuesday that is coming. And of course, if you know, what will be the date on the Gregorian calendar? I don't want to just look at it, but it is there's no other Tuesday that we are coming towards that we talk about. We are talking about, it's not this Tuesday, by the way, it is the Tuesday of 17th June. We begin that week of the solstice. And we go about it from this 21st all the way to 27th of the month. That is the coming Tuesday, the Tuesday that follows there. And by that time, the atmosphere has shifted because they've gone from the initial 3 stages of creative programming for the year. We began by seeding, did it for about 3 months. We went into brooding, did it for another 90 days. Now we are about to complete about 90 days, more or less, of travail. And then by the time you come to that week, we will be at the junction of moving to the very last actualization, programming, and giving licensure to the things that we have labored for, brought into the world, and now they need to have license and permanence and productivity within which for what they need to be useful. So that is basically what we see in our calendar and the significance of this week. I cannot emphasize enough about its significance. Now let's go to the highlights. And the first highlight is the equatorial transit of planet Aries tomorrow, daytime, Sunday, the 12th or the 10th month of year 005. This moment is significant. Stand in and of itself as something that represents an opening of gateways for people to speak into them and bring into being reality and a new dispensation for which men have never experienced before. Let me give you a way to history. For those of us who are part of the Kingdom Touch Ministries community, we did have a presentation that I showed you we mapped the entire cycle of planet Aries for the past about 340 years and went on for the next 260 something years. And we saw the entire cycle. And this is associated with the birth of nations, and not just nations, but nations in a people, in a consciousness that supersedes that which has transpired before. The last time we had a major equatorial transit, this is the ascendant, by the way, ascendant equatorial transit. Then we had the descendant equatorial transit over 360 years ago, 320 years ago, 340 years ago, I'm thinking. But I just say 300, over 300 years to be within limits of accuracy. Is that a nation called the United States was being born. It was undergoing its birth pangs, the consciousness with which it's depicted by was getting formed, and it was a pleasant and an unpleasant moment. But what gave it consequence is not the transit of Aries in and of itself. That is an indicator, a sign. It's like a sign on the road that gives you maybe a speed limit, or gives you a warning, or gives you an understanding of how many more kilometers or miles are from your destination. So by your signboard saying it is maybe a 2 hours drive to your destination, the signboard itself doesn't drive you and doesn't make sure that you drive for 2 hours. If you choose not to drive, you'll not be at your destination in 2 hours time. So itself, it is giving you an indicator that is achievable by you, and then you exert yourself, you make that transition, you make reality of its prediction. So I'm not robbing the value of predictive astrology. No, I'm just saying that it's incumbent upon us. All I'm saying is encouraging you that you're standing on the verge of the most unprecedented historical event in the world. And you can partake, you can drive the agenda, you can be the one who has a say-so in the new generation that is coming. Depending on how you position yourself, but depending on the wisdom you have. This transition happening tomorrow, the transit happening tomorrow, is a moment in time. But that moment in time, its characteristic, it's what it engenders, is smeared across the face of time. And you can see that with nations. Nations are not born in a day. Philosophies and creeds are not. But it takes a person or a people with adequate insight to understand what is happening to be able to institute the things that need to be instituted to bring about that change. Now, that is the Aries equatorial transit. I'll not say more for now. Then we have planet Venus. Planet Venus is moving into house 8. That will happen on Sunday as well. Now, there is a lunisolar opposition on Wednesday 15th of the 10th month. But before that, I have said, I have not indicated here with my notes, something of an oversight, is that on the 14th, we begin. On 14th of the 10th month, that is a Tuesday, we begin the 7 days of the ascendant solstice. And then we have a conjunction that is happening. It's a significant one. It has been happening all through the last 6 weeks. Saturn and Neptune are in conjunction Over the previous weeks, they've been joined and left by some more significant planets, some quicker planets like the likes of Venus and Uranus were here. Remember, the ascendant node of the moon was here as well, but those three others have left. We are left only with two. We're going to continue with them because they are quite not very quick in their transit. Now, something else important doesn't happen every day, doesn't happen every month, just a few months' time, is that its planet Mars is doing a planetary transit and is moving into house number 12, and this is going to happen on 17th of the 10th month of year 005 ER, just about a week away, but it's all happening within this week. Very significant week, very important for our understanding and for the greatness of what you need to do. By the way, I need to move back. I need to take back some words because I have misled you. I have said that the transit, what is happening from this Tuesday, but of course it's happening from the next Tuesday. It is not, as you can see. So remember that. That's another side. Sorry for that. The ascendant solstice not happening on Tuesday, but the Tuesday that is following this one. We'll have one Tuesday, that of the 14th. Then on the 21st, we'll move into the solstice week. So thank you so much for listening to me. We are coming very, very close to the point where we need to speak to welcome the new day. And I want you to stand up if you can, face towards the west. If you want particular guidelines and you have a compass in your phone that has a compass sensor, it can sense directions, point 292 degrees to your west, and we're going to speak creatively to bless the new week that is coming. We're going to order a reality, program it, and speak newness, life, consequence, and enormity, insignificance about every singular thing that we're going to do. And before we get into that, because we still about a minute away or some few minutes or so, I want you to contemplate about the things that you want to bring to reality as we speak about week number 41 of our year. I want you to take a moment, be conscious of the things that you are looking to do, and let them be foremost in your mind when we speak creatively not long from now. Thank you, everybody. Now, if you're facing the right direction, as I am doing, let us speak to welcome this new day, this new week, this new entire dispensation. So here we are on the verge of breaking into this most significant day, this most significant week, this most significant point in time in our collective consciousness. And we have hearts welling up with gratitude and thankfulness because of the consequences that have taken place, the things that we witnessed, the things that we have enjoyed, the things that we have brought to reality in the time that we are in. And we are speaking to order the reality of what is to come. Let this new week, let this new day, let this new glory and daylight that is coming bring with it our arising, our ascendance, our ultimate expression of our creative mandates into force. That we don't just speak as the passing wind, but we speak to order, to bring to reality the things that are and the things that will be. Not just for now, but for years, for decades, and for millennia. The nations are ripe for our harvest. The glory, the greatness, the riches, the wealth, the collective wisdom of humanity is for us to appropriate and direct. Let those doors upon which we knock be opened. These accesses upon which we make our progress. Right us through. Bring us to fullness of the things that we are. And every voice, every consciousness now holding on to things that are dear to them, let these plans, these operations, these considerations, desires, even ruminations that we are making about what we are and what we need to be, have solidity, significance, and even eternity written upon them. As they progress, as they are instituted, they become reality for now and for all time. We speak these words in all certainty, for we are the authors of our destiny. It is so. And now, everybody say together along with me, it is good in our sight. It is so. Have a blessed 41st week of our calendar. Have a blessed Sunday. Have a blessed beginning. Very productive, very creative, very consequential, in not just for yourself, but for all that you are now and in all time.